Should we take another minute, Sakshi ma'am, or should we start, please? Should we start? All right, ma'am. All right, ma'am. All right. Good morning, one and all present here. I'm Dr. Megha Pushkarna, and I would like to warmly invite Sakshi Singla ma'am. IILM has a complete honor to have Sakshi ma'am with us on our mental health awareness campaign, which we have been running for the last 1 week. And now the fact that we are today, we are wrapping up, we needed someone who is going to be talking about something crucially important for as young and as elderly as well. So there's a lot to talk about, Sakshi Singla ma'am, but if I could just give you a gist, which of course does not, it does not satisfy how amazing work ma'am has been doing. So ma'am is a child and a family coach. Ma'am has been a child development expert and an educational consultant for a long time. Ma'am has authored 29 books in K-12 domain. Ma'am has a specialization in youth mentoring, which is at Ignite Teenagers. Ma'am has which has a website, and I highly recommend you go and have a look at such beautiful work ma'am has been rolling out. Ma'am is passionate about gender equality in parenting, being a parent herself of two uniquely, fiercely independent young adults with heart full of gratitude. Ma'am has been there to work with her children to tell you what it takes to be a full-fledged parent. Ma'am is from Delhi University and she's been a guest speaker there. Ma'am is pursuing currently PhD in positive psychology and mental health at IILM. She's a change maker. She helps in believing a mindful, gender equal, and a kind world for our future generations. It is so important in 2020 as of today. On a mission to help parents and become the best parent they can be, it is the least I could tell about Sakshi ma'am. Sakshi ma'am has been a very crucial, she's had a very crucial role in our mental health week. And I would take more time of her. Over to Sakshi ma'am and wish you all the very best, ma'am. We look forward to your session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Megha, for such a beautiful introduction. A warm welcome to everyone joining here today. The virus has changed the way we live. The virus has changed the way we internet today. Stuck at home during the coronavirus pandemic, with movie theaters closing down, no restaurants to dine in, nowhere to take our kids to, no park visits, schools, colleges, and workplaces all going online, people globally have a really different lifestyle now. They've been spending more of their lives online than ever before. But is there any good that's come out of it as well? We talk about internet addiction problems. We are worried that our children are on their screens 24/7. We cannot handle our own addiction sometime. But I have a question to ask. Is internet bad? Are cell phones bad? From no screen time to forever on screens, the world has changed quite a lot. Do in the chat tell us how many hours of internet or cell phone usage you do. It'll give all of us an idea about the fact that we are all maybe in the same boat. A little bit more for some people, or maybe a little bit less. But since we work on the internet, on our phones, on our screens, our usage has really increased from maybe 10 months before, when there was no pandemic in this world. So let's dive in and talk more about this. I'll share my screen here to bring in some visuals to start this conversation. And let's see if something has come out which is really good as well. Now, in this mental health awareness campaign, we've talked about so many things. And all these things have given us an idea about the fact that the world has really changed and the mental health issues are really, really growing. The internet is not what is bad. The screens are not what are bad. The cell phones are not what are bad. What is not okay is our own control on any of these things. So, what we're going to talk about today is how do we tackle screen time issues, increased usage, or maybe addiction in some places during this pandemic. I'm going to run some visuals here and I'm going to ask you some questions. Either put some answers in the chat if you want to. If not, I'd like you to internalize and see what I'm trying to talk about here. The first question is, what is technoference? Now, the visuals that you see from here on are going to give you an idea about what I'm talking about. There is this father who's on his phone with a child who's looking really lost. What if this scene could have been beautiful scenery around. I think it's a snow-clad place where they are. The greenery looks amazing. There could have been a connect between the father and the son more, but it seems like they're absolutely disconnected right now. And we go to the next visual. This is something we are all doing in our homes a little too much now. Again, this visual could have been different. This visual could have had a whole family having an interesting conversation together. But what they are doing is they are in their own worlds. It is a family scene, but there is no family connection that you can see in this picture. Another one. Could be a restaurant scene or could be a family dinner. The food is untouched. And people seem to have no connection with the children or their spouses or whatever this family is looking like. And everybody is on their screens. And sadly, this is what a lot of us sometimes are doing at our homes as well. This could be the online school for these children. But irrespective, what you see the most in these visuals is disconnection of humans with each other. What is technoference? And I'm going to talk about the definition here. Technoference refers to the interruptions in the interpersonal communication caused by attention paid to personal screens. In other words, it's that thing where you're looking at your phone or tablet and don't hear the question your child, your friend, your mom, or your spouse asked you. So, what is technology doing to us today? What technology is doing is that it is interfering with our lives, and that is what is called technoference. Technoference is a new term. We didn't need this term maybe 10, 15 years ago, but it is a term where there are a lot of researches happening today. Another word, what is phubbing? Again, if you look at the visuals closely, you'll know what I'm talking about. What do you see in these pictures? It seems that there are two people together who could be, a husband or a wife or friends, but they are ignoring each other and not making any connection. And what is the culprit here? All these visuals show that the culprit is the phone or the internet or the screen that they are using. Similar images. What comes out the most is the disconnection between people. Phubbing is an act of snubbing someone you're talking in person in favor of your phone. While the behavior might not seem like a big deal, research suggests phubbing may be hurting your relationships and your mental health. And we do this quite often. Another term for parents here, the audience is pretty varied today. We've got young adults, we've got teenagers, we've got parents, we've got teachers. Parenting while distracted. Again, the visual says it all. That really cute looking child out there with the sweetest smile, the moment is being missed by the father. Another example of parenting while distracted. Look at the beautiful smile, feeling of excitement that that young child has, and the mother is missing one of those very beautiful moments of childhood which become huge memory banks for us. When our children grow up, we go back to those memories and remember our children. But what's happening here is that this is parenting while distracted. Another one. Too much screen time is bad for our children. And I see so many parents troubled, coming to me, going to counselors, extremely worried about their children's internet use. But sometimes, and many a times, I see them forgetting that it is also ruining their parenting skills. Okay, another word. The young people here would be very, very familiar with this. What is doom scrolling? We all know what that is. We all do that. We don't put our minds into what we are seeing on maybe the social media or on the internet. And we keep scrolling down, and the content that we are reading has no meaningful understanding for us because we do this so much that what we get to understand nothing on what's happening, but we do this very, very often. And it's not just the young people. I end up doing it sometimes as well. Internet addiction is a problem. Overuse of internet, cell phones is a problem. But it's not just a problem for our youth or our children, it is also a big problem for us adults. So, what we need to do is to be careful about our own use. So, if we are role modeling the use the way we are, we can't expect our young children, our youth, to not get addicted because that's what they think is the normal thing to do. So, some of the statistics to give you an understanding of what's really happening. This addiction statistics is not been taken from the end of the pandemic or this time because those figures were not available, but they still indicate what is it that's happening in our homes. The typical cell phone user touches his or her phone 2,617 times a day. 2,617 times a day. And it could be you and me as well, because we are so much on our cell phones, thanks to the pandemic as well. Most people on an average spend 3 hours and 15 minutes on their phones each day. And this average has been taken looking at all the people who might not be using it at all. So this average in young people, people who are now working also on their internet or their phones, has gone up to over 10 hours a day, which is really scary to think about. We are looking at how the world is connecting. What has happened in this pandemic is that we see a lot of increase in social media usage. Netflixing, of course, has gone up. YouTube usage has gone up. All these app usage has gone up, but we also need to understand that it's kept us sane. It has kept us sane because otherwise we would have gone crazy if we had no connect, no entertainment, no social media at all. So it's not all bad. What I'm trying to say is it's not all bad, but all we need to understand is that we can have a better control. We have suddenly become reliant on services that allow us to work and learn from home. Zoom, Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, Hangouts made by Google have saved so many of us from not losing our jobs or not losing a connect with the schools. So these are some of the good things that have come out as well. The average daily traffic to Wikipedia has grown. Isn't that amazing? Which means many people are learning more, getting to know more about this world. And a lot, of course, of this has to do with statistics checking or well-being checking because of our coronavirus as well. Video games have been gaining while sports have lost out. So all these figures are very recent and they talk about what's happening in the world. We know that social media usage has gone up. TikTok's not here anymore, but the usage was growing very, very fast when it was allowed in our country. It is still allowed in many other countries. Sports has taken a hit also because not a lot of sports are happening because of the fear of virus. What are the problems that we face when we see an addiction problem? Actually, a lot of problematic smartphone or internet use is actually a behavior disorder, which is not always an addiction. Most often, it is not a complete what we call internet addiction. But if it goes unchecked, it can become an addiction problem. So, what are some of the things that you might be going through, or you see them in your family or your friends, which can be termed as red flags? Conscious use in prohibited contexts or potentially dangerous situations. Texting while driving, that's a big problem. A lot of accidents happen because of texting while driving, and a lot of young people are involved. Excessive use that causes conflicts with family, withdrawing from family or shared events, negative effects on school, family, social or emotional functioning, continued excessive use despite negative effects, impulsive, frequent, constant checking of phone, even in short bursts, strong need to check every few minutes, insomnia or sleep disturbances are so huge. And a lot of them are so huge in the young people. Excessive urgency or need to be connected, increase in use to achieve satisfaction or counteract the sad mood. When you're feeling sad, it's easier to just go to somebody else's social media or your own social media to feel okay. Increased anxiety or irritability if phone is not accessible. So all these problems or issues, if you see and you get into the awareness that they're happening to you or to somebody else, it will get easier to be able to handle the problem as well. Look at this picture and tell me, what do you see? Why do we love the internet so much? Why can't we disconnect? What is happening in our brain when we are using our cell phones? Dopamine is the answer. And I'm going to show you how. Why technology, internet usage, online games are so addictive. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that works by traveling between different synapses and neurons in different parts of the brain that control when people are either eating, sleeping, moving, learning, or maintaining attention. When people are triggered by some sort of external stimuli like TV, cell phone, games, a rush of dopamine is released through our neural pathways. This tells a person what they are doing feels really good. That is the dopamine reward loop. Pick up your phone, dopamine increases. You feel happy, you put your phone down, dopamine decreases. It's a loop and a vicious circle that we all get stuck in, which is why you can't just stop doom scrolling, maybe. Which is why if you've seen one person's social media post, you want to go and see other people's. It just keeps going on and on. 6 signs you need to do a digital detox. We also call it dopamine detox. You need to go offline if you see these 6 signs in you. Number one, you won't leave your house without your phone, which I guess none of us are doing nowadays. You feel compelled to check your phone constantly for no particular reason. You eat with your phone on the table. You feel anxious or depressed after using social media. You obsess over sending or receiving a text or posting a comment. You often feel afraid of missing out. I don't know about you, but I guess 90% of people amongst us must be feeling these one time or the other. And all of us need a dopamine detox at least once a week, is what we will talk about when we talk about strategies. Now, proven ways to break your cell phone addiction. This is for teenagers, young adults, not just for them, but for us adults as well. Let's stop checking our teenagers and young adults all the time, because now they are ready to check us as well. So when we do have all these instructions that we are giving to them, what we need to also do is to check what are we doing with our phones? How often are we checking our phones? Why are we taking our calls in between a dinner time, for example? Proven ways to break your cell phone addiction. Set aside one day a week, at least one day in a week, to keep your phone locked away. Use that time as family time, self care time, or whatever you want to do. Use a 30-day experiment to reset your usage. Give yourself those 30 days and tell yourself that you're only going to be doing 2 hours or 3 hours of schoolwork and another 2 hours, but make that conscious decision. Use apps to bolster self-control. It's very difficult to have self-control when it comes to technology. That's where technoference is coming from. That's now that we understand that there is a dopamine release, and that is something that sometimes goes a little out of our control. We can take help from outside. So we use apps like Space that can set goals and track your daily progress to manage your habits. There's a very beautiful app called Forest. It makes you stay focused and be present. Forest is a beautifully designed app that brings gamification to productivity. It results in real trees being planted based on your personal phone use habits. Flipped, it locks away distracting apps when you are wanting to completely focus on an assignment or an exam. What you can do is you can use apps like these. Screen time, I think a lot of us are doing it. I do it. Set daily usage limits on your phone or for specific apps, and it will keep reminding you. And that's something which we need to do consciously. Otherwise, we will get sucked into the addiction that we are all very, 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 very scared of. This is what I feel some of us look like. Maybe not so much literally, but in our minds. Another thing that you can do is a very, very simple way again. Change your phone settings. Among the most often suggested ideas, some of them really work, which I've used personally as well, is turn off the notifications. Set screen to black and white mode, because the color really attracts us, makes the picture look better, makes the social media look better. Sometimes, and I'm not asking you young people to do this all the time, but when you've decided that this is the time that you're not going to be using the internet as much, or you want to keep away, do it for yourself. Remove distraction-based apps from your home screen, because it's so easy to then dive in. If you have an exam, remove the Facebook and the Instagram apps, because then you will have to go to the Google, put the app name, then go to the app and then start scrolling. It helps. Set a longer passcode. It works fabulously well. You know, my passcode is 8-digit long. And I purposely don't do a face ID on my phone, because it's very easy to open the phone then. Use airplane mode. we only use this in airplanes, but I think we need to use it at a time we really don't want to get distracted. Do not disturb. Use it. These pictures break our heart, but sadly, this is how we look like sometimes. Another very interesting one I heard from a teenager that I work with. And she said that I put a hairband around my phone. It's a large hairband, and I put it in the middle of the phone so that if I have to take a call, it's easier to pick up the call. But to use any of the apps, it becomes difficult for me to use them. And and when I see the hairband on the phone, it is a reminder to me that I need to be careful. I should not be doing the phone. Practice mindfulness to curb urges. Practice adaptive coping strategies like exercise, deep breathing, and progressive muscle relaxation. We talked about it in our session yesterday as well with Dr. Rabha and Dr. Parnika. I don't know if you attended that or not, but I think being mindful, exercising, deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation are all very, very, very effective for keeping us away from internet addiction as well. Some of the tips and screen use hacks, these are for parents of small children, teenagers, and young adults. I'm going to talk about these hacks for the parents and the teenagers one by one. The biggest one is be a good role model. So if you're a parent and you are somebody who looks like this, we cannot put the blame on our children when they grow up. If we are so addicted ourselves, and this is the kind of role modeling we are doing, I think it's us to blame. Also, when we've got younger siblings, we are role modeling to them as well. Another thing that I see a lot of parents doing is to make the meal times easier. They let the children get into any kind of YouTube streaming, and the children do not then want to eat their meals without the use of one of these apps or something that keeps them involved. It's easier for the parent, but it is the worst kind of parenting here. When you have young children, they need your attention more than your mobile phone does. Give it to them. Social media can wait. Anything less is disservice to your child and a recipe for bad behavior. If they have to behave badly to get your attention, they will. Just remember this, parents. Putting your phone away and paying attention to those talking to you, there's an app for that which is called respect. We all need to keep reminding ourselves of this. So being a role model is one of the most important things that you can do. Instead of cribbing about or worrying about your child's use, you need to see what is it that you're doing because they are looking at you. Hack number 2, draft a family screen time agreement. Now, a family screen time agreement is something where every person in the family has to agree to. Put that on the refrigerator or on the family room somewhere so that everybody can see. Put your chargers outside the bedrooms, charge them in one place for all the people. Don't let the phones be in the rooms in the night. Every family can draft their own screen time agreement. And ideally, if this is done before the screens are given to the children when they're growing up, it works the best. Hack number 3, keep an eye on the apps, games, websites your children are using, because this is extremely important. You can't end up telling your children that I don't understand technology very well. I think my kids are very good at it, so they know what they are doing. No, they don't know what they are doing, because or when they are young, they have no idea how addictive various games and apps could be. So you need to do your research beforehand. And this is also for young adults. When you are going to sites or you are looking at new games, please, please research before. Like Fortnite is an amazing game, which is not a bad game, but it is very addictive in nature. So the parents need to see what age group that the children should start, whatever game they are asking for, because all these games have been prepared by people who really know what to do with bringing attention of children and people into the game. So they are highly skilled people who make these games. They make them addicted, and that's how they earn money. So let's not forget that. Check out a lot of other things that are going on. As a parent, you should know if you've got young children, what are the apps? What are the apps, and what is it that is good about them, and what is it that is not so good about them? Do your research. Don't. And I would say, as parents, you need to start getting more. You need to learn more about technology because your children are learning it at a much faster rate. Hack number 4. This is my favorite, and this is for everybody. This is for you, me, adults, teachers, young adults, children, parents. Internet is not bad, phones are not bad, screens are not bad. Our usage and what we do on them is the problem. So why not use it for more active time than passive time? What are the examples of active time? Doing an aerobic lesson, maybe doing yoga, maybe building a website on the computer, writing a blog, doing something very cognitively challenging. So active time always doesn't mean that it has to be a physical time. It could be brain exercise time as well. That is active time on the computer or the internet versus passive time. What is passive time? Passive time is Netflixing for 10 hours straight, 5 hours straight. Passive time is watching, for kids, watching cartoons for 3 hours straight off. Passive time is somewhere where the child or the person is not using his mind, his brain, his own understanding, and is just enjoying what is happening in somebody else's life. So passive time sometimes makes a lot of sense because you want to feel relaxed. So watching movies or Netflixing has also really helped us in this pandemic. But how much of it you do it makes a lot of sense. So if your active time on the internet versus passive time is more, you're in a good place. Connecting versus isolation. We see a lot of young adults, a lot of teenagers who are really isolating themselves. They are isolating themselves. They are in some other room. They are not making any connection with the family. So if we say that, like what are we doing right now? We are connecting more than isolating ourselves. We are here together talking about a topic which is very, very dear to our hearts because we know all of us are struggling somewhere. This is connecting time. What is isolation time? Is we scrolling, fubbing, bringing technoference in our lives through being in another room and isolating ourselves from family and friends. Mindful and mindless usage of internet, cell phone, or whatever we do on it. If it's mindful, we are going to maybe take a virtual trip to, I'll take a virtual trip to Switzerland, or I'll take a virtual trip to Nepal. That is a mindful usage. Or I'll make my child go check out the NASA website, maybe go into the space, maybe listen to some interesting stories. Mindless, what is mindless usage? That you're just doom scrolling, or you're looking at something which is not helping you in any manner. It's not bringing any meaning to your life. even good stories, good storytelling, watching good movies, watching inspiring movies are all mindful. Limited versus unlimited. So again, going back to the fact that internet's not bad, we need it. It's saved us during this pandemic. Um, but if we've been careful with our time usage and we are limiting it, and it's not unlimited, the young people are sometimes not sleeping the whole night and they're waking up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoons because they could not either sleep or they were doing unlimited use of either Netflixing or internet scrolling. That is a problem. So, internet is not bad. Internet is amazing. Internet has helped us cope with these very difficult pandemic times, but internet also has, for some of us, brought us to this. Many people, many students that I talk to tell me that they've been doing very, very interesting things with their time. People have started blogs. People have, upskilled themselves. They've taken a lot of courses. Vis-a-vis some other children, young adults, and even adults I know who've just fretted and become more all through this pandemic period, and they've been anxious and they've been mindlessly using the internet and their phones. This is active time. Hack number 5, very important. What is our digital footprint? I'm going to ask you all a question. We are all on Facebook. The young people are more on Instagram and the other apps now, but I'm asking the adults here. Do you know what your digital footprint is? When you go to the Facebook, you can download your entire history, activity, all that you've been doing for so many years, and see what is it that it looks like. I think we don't put too much of our mind on what is the kind of digital footprint we are leaving. A lot of young adults, especially teenagers, I see being very, very responsible on what is it that they are putting out in the media or digitally. And what they don't realize sometimes is that that digital footprint lives forever on the internet. We think we've deleted it, but when we go to maybe for an interview to get a job tomorrow, when need comes or when we are in that situation, sometimes it's possible for them to check the kind of usage they are doing. It gives your history. If it is a good history, it is going to go in your favor. It's not a good history, it's not going to go in your favor. For teenagers and young adults, do an experiment. Download your Facebook history, go check often what your followers are on Instagram. Be very mindful of who you let be your follower. Don't follow people who are unknown to you. Don't let any strangers come into your follower list. Keep your privacy controls on. If you put pictures on Facebook and on other social media, put them on only me, where you don't want the entire world to know what you are doing all the time. So you could open up those pictures sometimes for people to, for your friends and your family to see. But beyond that, you need to close that. You need to make sure that your life is not on display forever for everybody around. Another thing that we forget as people is that when we are looking at other people's social media profiles, we are looking at their most beautiful room in the house, for example. And I'm making an analogy here. What we do is that we're looking at the best parts or the front of the house of the person we are checking out on the Facebook, and we are comparing it to maybe the laundry room or the most disorganized or the most not so nice house in our home. So what we do is that when we look at social media very often, we start feeling anxious, we start feeling depressed because we see people having a much better time than us, looking better, and a lot of other things. But what we forget most often is that that's their front of the house. They are not showing us their challenges, they are not showing us their sadness, they are not showing us what's really going on in their life beyond all this. But what we do is that we compare it to our worst times, and that's what brings in anxiety. Think before you post. Nothing really gets deleted on social media. Like I said, it all becomes your digital footprint. You don't want a bad digital footprint, right? And I'm speaking about this to adults as well, because we are a little bit more technologically challenged than our children. So we need to get smarter. We need to learn technology better because it can overtake our lives as well. Any questions? I'm open for questions now. I thought we'll maybe keep a little bit more time for it, so that if there's anything else that you want to talk about, I am ready to answer here.
Thank you so much, ma'am. What an engaging session. And coming from the heart, I'm a mother of two children myself. It was so on the spot in terms of what we all face at the moment, fear of missing out, the addiction. I mean, so many things I have to admit, I myself feel addicted to. So thank you for bringing out so much clarity to such a practically oriented topic. Maybe we as adults may somewhere notice the kind of subliminal addiction we are coming on to. Maybe our children and teenagers and young adults may not even feel like that. So there are a couple of questions, ma'am, and I won't take a lot of your time. uh, Ma'am, like something which is coming in, how do you know if you have internet addiction, ma'am? How do we figure it out?
It starts with having that awareness. The awareness that you are looking and checking if you have internet addiction or not is the first step.
Right,
If
ma'am.
your internet use pattern interferes with your life, that's the biggest indicator. If
Right.
any shape or form it impacts your work, your family, your relationships, your school, you are going towards internet addiction. You
Okay.
may have a problem if you find that you're using the internet as a means to regularly alter your mood. You're feeling down, you don't know what to do, you
Right.
go to the internet. It's important to know that it's not just the actual time spent online. It also determines if you have a problem um, on anything, even if it's like an hour usage, but what is it that you're using it on?
Right.
If you're visiting sites which are going to bring you down eventually, maybe make you feel good for some time, you are going towards internet addiction. So,
Oh,
yeah.
so that's the action. So, a related question to that, ma'am, what came to my mind, what can you do if you know you have internet addiction? And so I now realize that I have an internet addiction. What can I do about it, ma'am? How should I go about it?
Um, the problem, Dr. Megha, is that we all have a little bit of an addiction, I feel, because we are checking our phones too often. We can't but look at, maybe with the corner of our eye, if there is a message that's come and we are on sitting on the table, we all get distracted. The
Right,
first
ma'am.
step is admitting to ourselves. Like, you've made the admission, I've made this admission many times, when I know my usage is going crazy. Then another important thing is to talk about this to people in your family or your friends, because if you're going to keep it inside, it is going to keep, now that you're in awareness, it's going to keep troubling you. It's going to
Right, ma'am.
emotionally maybe bring you down more. So talk about it with the people in your family, or people whoever you trust. Ask them for help. Tell them that, if I am using the phone a little too often, if you see if I'm fubbing or snubbing you,
Right.
please bring it up. I really want to make a change. Admitting to yourself, hence, is the first thing for breaking the addiction. There are also support groups. which
Okay.
are coming up here in India as well. And if you think that you really don't have a way out, do work with a psychologist. Now, we've been
Okay.
talking about this mental health
Right.
awareness for so long, and we've talked about stigma. We've been talking about why and how we are not so comfortable talking about the problems that we have. um, we need to start talking. We need to start talking for ourselves. If we see another person, maybe our child or a teenager that we know is facing this problem, speak to them. Let them get the help. You know, a lot of times I see parents telling me, "No, but we can't bring him in, or I can't bring her in. She'll feel that she has a huge problem." And I tell them, "No, it is just talking. Your counseling, in terms of talking, has a lot of impact, because you come out with the problems that you have, and it's easier for people to then break the habit. If you're not going to do anything about it, or if you're going to shy away from the fact that people are going to say that you're going to a psychologist, or you are not okay, or you're not strong enough. I see that a lot coming in the teenagers. Is, no, but um,
Right, ma'am.
don't tell my friends, or don't tell my parents. Some of them just come without any knowledge of their parents, because they feel that they will be looked down upon.
Yes, that
So
is a problem. That
if you,
stigma is there.
yeah, which that destigmatizing, I guess, mental health is what this program has been all about, and internet addiction is no different.
Ma'am, so this is something with us who are a little aware. We know we have phones because, how about online schooling? Now, about a year back, I wouldn't be happy if my children, if I speak for myself or in general, for because all parents across are facing this, we weren't okay with our children getting a lot of screen time. But today, our children, their learning is their online classes. So there's so much increase in screen time now, and I can't even what do I do about that? I mean, what do I do about this online school? I wish my kids were going to school, but today school is at home.
Oh, that's such a important question, and I agree with you. But what I tell when the same question comes to me from, and it comes from a lot of parents today, I tell them that, remember, we talk about mindful usage, we talk about limited usage. Now, what is really wrong is also that we put the blame on online schooling completely. Online schooling is saving our children. It's giving them the connection. It is making them learn. It's a different place. It's a different way, but the learning is happening. Now, the problem, I'll tell you, Dr. Megha, is that it's easier to put the blame on the fact that everything's gone online and the schools are online. But what are we doing at home is something that we are not checking. So if our children have to be on the online school for 5 hours or 4 hours, for example, what stops a parent in us to not use internet or screens or phones after that? What stops us, and a lot of parents do that. They need to take a break, or they need to go somewhere, or they maybe need to sleep for a little time. They use internet for those times. So what
Right,
happens is that online time is mindful. Online time for school is required. We can't do without it. But why can't we as parents not let our children use the screens? If we are so worried for them, we need to have the limits put. And there is nothing wrong with the online. And I agree with you. A lot of parents, there were lots of things happening on the internet where there were people talking about no screen time. I don't agree with that. We live in 21st century. How can we talk about a no screen time world? Even before the pandemic, we
right,
are
ma'am.
not so comfortable on the computer. We are happy doing a lot, but our children have been born in the internet era. Now, what we do with it is extremely important. What we do with it is mindful usage, is active usage. So it's like a parent gives a YouTube video option to their children for an hour, which they don't know what they are doing on. vis-a-vis that 1 hour beyond the school time that a parent wants to give to their children, why can't it be something more interesting? Why can't it be an online chess game if it's an older
Yeah,
child?
that's true. That's a good alternate. That's
What it can be, maybe stargazing, maybe a NASA site where they become astronauts and go into the space. Why can't it be, if for older children, why can't we inspire them to maybe write a blog on it? Why can't we inspire them to do, um, maybe build a website? Children are so smart today, Dr. Megha. They can build websites. It's like, but what we need to understand is that beyond whatever else we are doing with the online school, how else are we using that time at home? Let's
mm,
not use it because it's easier for them to feed. If you put the TV
yes.
on, or you put the YouTube video on, it makes a parent's job much easier to feed the child. It
So
makes
true, so true. It
it's
makes it easy.
it's so we need to, as parents, we need to be even more, I think, involved. We need to understand that it's not good if it is unlimited, mindless, passive, isolation kind of use. If we understand that, I think school's wonderful. I think the teachers have done such an amazing job
Yes,
that
absolutely.
it's really worthwhile what's happening today.
That's true. That's true, ma'am. Ma'am, one more question that comes to my mind with this whole pandemic. Okay, let's just say that pandemic could be an excuse of information seeking from net, but what has happened is everybody now looks at more information, and there's a lot of restlessness. How about 6 months back we were wondering which countries getting more affected by corona. Today we're looking at how many vaccinations are coming in. So there's a lot of um, compulsive information seeking that we're looking at the internet, and I don't think that leaves us very comfortable. Like, every time we, switch on news, we hear something, we search internet, we see something, and it's like a dilemma. You don't know what to believe in, but you would always go back to that source. And worst part is that you spend hours doing that. What would you say about that, ma'am?
Oh God, that's a big one. In this pandemic ridden world, I think another thing that we're doing is, like somebody was saying, that we're bringing the pandemic of mental health in mental health problems as well. Another huge pandemic that we're bringing in is a pandemic of or a virus which is called anxiety. Now, we are adults, we can look after our anxiety. And yes, there is so much information on the internet today about what's happening. And I think we're a little better off now. But when the pandemic started, I remember we used to see the numbers 24/7. So Italy had these many deaths and America had these many deaths. Which was very, very difficult. And it was becoming extremely compulsive for all of us. And it was bringing us down. It was telling us, it was bringing um, hopelessness and helplessness in people. But 10 months in the pandemic, I think a lot of people are realizing that it's not doing us any good. So the TVs are not on the news mode as often. And if people are doing it, I think they need to stop doing it. Looking at the TV and the numbers 24/7 is not helping anybody. Like I always tell my students and people I work with is just, let's just remember what is in our control. The numbers or what's happening in America are not in our control. But what we do with that time is in our control. So once we come to that awareness, that anxiety reduces. And another thing I'd like to say for parents here is that please manage your own anxiety, because if you don't manage your own anxieties with a full uh, developed brains, how can small children or even teenagers for that matter, who think only from their emotional brain, will be able to take this kind of anxiety? So if you're feeling anxious, uh, keep it in check. You want to feel anxious, you want to talk about it, please don't talk about it 24/7 in front of your children. So talk about things which are in your control. Talk about things like put your children onto a play date on Zoom with other children. Keep the anxiety virus in check. That's the only way for us, and that awareness will stop a compulsive information seeking behavior as well.
That's so nice, ma'am. And coming from an expert, I'm sure it is something which is doable. Ma'am, last 5 minutes, I will please take a question. This comes in. with my question is regarding scrolling. What if we are sitting with lots of people, but they are busy in themselves? So to pretend that solution is not awkward or not affecting us from inside, instead we doom scrolling. What else can we do if we cannot move out of that room? I believe the question states in terms of what do you do when you're in a social situation where everyone else is busy and you don't want to look awkward and you start scrolling your phone mindlessly. So I think the question asks, what do you do in that social awkwardness where you cannot leave the room? And
Um, you can do some bit of breathing exercise for yourself. If you are scrolling, don't let it be dumb.
hmm,
At in places like this or in these situations, a phone really comes to our rescue as well, and there is nothing wrong in it. Like I say, what we do on it is in our control sometimes, and we all understand this. But why do we do these webinars or these mental health week awareness programs? Is because it brings us to more awareness. It stops us in our track somewhere and uh, tells us that, okay, yeah, this is something which I am doing, but I was not really thinking too much about it consciously. Again, the kind of usage goes back to the same answer that I gave earlier.
that's true. That's true. Wow, ma'am. I think with me, a lot of people have got such practical ways to go forward in life and look at things. One last question, if there aren't any, if you don't mind, ma'am, I would like to ask as a mother. Well, I'm a mother and I can't stop scrolling my WhatsApp and then start comparing. And at times I beat myself down, with how other mothers are doing things. And they're so active and they have such beautiful routine with their children. Me as a working mom, unfortunately at times I'm unable to have that working, that interactive routine. It kind of makes me feel bad too. So what can I do about it, ma'am?
Um, so you're talking about if you can't be available or
Yes.
attentive with your children, what can you do?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So if the screen has to be used at that time, why can't it be a nice, interesting, maybe a yoga or a craft session or something where you bring in some of the things that are required to be done for the children. So you let them maybe take a drawing lesson on the screen,
Right, ma'am.
maybe give them the craft things and let them make something that they are seeing on the TV. Maybe have put, or if nothing else, just put a song which is nice and peppy where the children can look, see, and dance along. So there are places, and yes, we are all working people, and we are spending so much more of our time on the internet
Right, ma'am.
or on our work schedules. What is it that we can do? Like I said, if we go back to just remembering that, let's do find out more mindful, more active activities for our children. We will use that time, those 2 hours that we are busy, to let them do something else where maybe the screen is used. And when we get free, after that, we will make sure that we will keep our phones away. We will not use the screens with our children. At that time, we will maybe take them for a stroll or do something which is more easier to do.
Lovely, ma'am. Lovely. You give
There's
me give
another
me
question here. Do we have a minute?
Yes, ma'am. We have a minute, ma'am. If you don't mind, may I read it for you, please?
Yeah, sure.
So, ma'am, Hanumat says that, ma'am, on one end, we think to control our screen addiction, but at another, we are also getting highly influenced by social media personalities or their royal lifestyle. So, this is somewhere affecting our originality. How do we cope up with this?
Again, we keep going back to the same thing, and it just doesn't happen to you, but it happens to a lot of us as well. We do get influence. It's interesting. It's like having a Stardust or a Vogue online now, which is so much more easier to look at. Again, going back to the same thing, why not get inspired by these people? Instead of looking at what beautiful clothes they are wearing, go read their stories. Go read the stories of people who worked really hard, and all these celebrities, all this fame hasn't come for free. So if we go read their stories behind, let's pick and choose what we want to pick and choose from their lives. um, Comparisons, we all know, are not going to take us anywhere. But I think that's a good way to look at it.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much. On behalf of IILM and all the students and faculties who are in your session right now, I think we've had such a great way to look at a problem. So it's not about addressing a problem. My takeaway is to understand what I can do with my problem. So thank you so much, Sakshi ma'am, for your time and for your gloriously pictorial presentation. I think it was really nice. I found myself there in one of the two slides, and it felt very real. It really felt very real. So thank you so much for your time, ma'am. Good day to you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, for being such an amazing audience. We've got loads of people here. Just one last thing, just remember your dopamine detox, your digital detox once a week. And if you can, please promise me that you'll at least give yourself one day in a week. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Good day, everyone.